So today's lesson is called Multiplying and Dividing Integers, and by the end of today's lesson you'll be able to correctly multiply and divide any integer. So first off, what happens when you multiply a positive by a positive? You're going to end up with a positive answer. Now, what happens when you multiply a negative by a negative? Now, if you ever get confused by those negatives, don't forget, you can always draw your triangle. Positive, negative, negative. So if I multiply two negatives, my answer should be a positive. So I multiply two negatives, I end up with a positive. So when you have the same sign, what's your answer always going to be? It's always going to be a positive answer. So I would like this in your notes. Signs are the same, positive answer. Now, what happens when the signs are different? So in this case, we have a positive times a negative. So if you forgot again, you can always draw your triangle, plus, minus, minus. So when I multiply a positive and a negative, what's my answer? My answer is going to be a negative. So my answer is negative. Then, if I flip them around, if I have a negative times a positive, is that going to make any difference? The answer is no. We draw a triangle, minus, minus. So let's say we do a negative times a positive. What do I have left over? A negative as well. So my answer is also going to be a negative. So when the signs are different, we're always going to get a negative answer. So I want this in your notes as well. Now remember though, when we start dealing with multiple positives, multiple negatives, our answer, we're not quite sure. We have to use our different rules. But when you have two different positives, it's going to be a positive. Two different negatives, it's going to be a positive. Or if you have a positive and a negative, it's going to be a negative. Or a negative times a positive, it's going to be a negative. So be careful. How many negatives do you have? So go and write down example number 1. We're going to go and solve it. So I have negative 2 times a 3. Now, is this 3 positive or negative? Technically, it's a positive. So, what's a negative times a positive? It's going to be a negative. And remember, you can always draw your triangle if you're not sure. So, I have a negative times a positive. It's going to be a negative. Now, what's 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6. So, negative 6 is going to be my answer. Now, go and try to solve number 2 and number 3. What are you going to get? Let's go and take a look at example number 2. I have a negative 4 times a negative 8. Now, if you notice, we're multiplying two negatives. Whenever multiplied together, always going to give us a positive. So, technically, these are both going to turn into positives. So, I end up with a positive, and what's 4 times 8? 32. Now, you can always write this also as just 32. It's up to you which one you prefer. Either answer is correct. I'm just leave it as positive 32 so it's easier to remember. Now let's go and take a look at example number 3. Number 3, I have a positive 6 times 4. Now is my 4 positive or negative? Technically it's positive. Now, signs are the same. If the signs are the same, what happens is always going to be a positive. So my answer should be a positive. Then, let's see this better, what's 6 times 4? 6 times 4 is 24. Remember, or you can put 24. Either one is okay, doesn't matter. Now, let's go and solve number 4. So, looking at number 4, once again, we have two different signs. We have a negative 8. Now, what's this 7? The 7 is technically a positive. So, it's a positive times a negative. It's always going to be a negative. So, I end up with a negative number. Then, what's 7 times 8? 7 times 8 is 56. Now, on your own, go ahead and try number 5. What is the answer going to be? Well, with number 5, once again, we have different signs. I have a negative 2 and technically a positive 5. What's a negative times a positive? It's going to be a negative. So I end up with a negative answer. And then what's 2 times 5? We shall know 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So 10 is going to be our answer. Now, we're going to do some real life examples of why we do some things. I want you don't write this down. I just want you to watch and listen. We're going to go over why a positive times a positive is a positive, why a positive times a negative is a negative, why negative times a positive is negative, and then why negative times a negative is a positive. So our first example, positive times a positive. So for example, we have a bank record. It says that we make 5 deposits. Remember, we learned that deposits is a positive of $30 each. So it means we're also adding $30 each time. So both of those are positives. So when I multiply them, that means I am going to be depositing $150. So I now have $150 more, which is a good thing, hence why it's a positive. I'm saving my money. Now let's look at the next example, positive times a negative. Why is that negative? So, my real life example. I have my bank record show, remember, I have 5 withdrawals. That's a minus. I'm taking it away of $30 each. That's my money, so that's a positive. So, how do I set this up? I'm withdrawing it, so 5 withdrawals, which means I'll be losing, or in this case, how about spending $150. That's why it's a negative. I'm withdrawing, taking out how much? $30 at a time. So next example, our bank loses track of 5 deposits of $30 each. So, key word here, they lose, and then we have deposits of $30 each. So see what happens. Now, since they lost track, they lost what? They lost track of my 5 deposits. That's a bad thing. $30, that's my positive. So they lost $150. That's why it's a negative, because they lost track of it. If it's gone, that's always a bad thing. And last but not least, we're going to go over our negative times a negative, y equals a positive. So, my example. My bank loses track of 5 withdrawals each. Now, from our previous example we're looking at here, withdrawals. Withdrawals means that you are spending your money, right? You're spending it somewhere. Now, if the bank loses those 5 withdrawals, does that mean that you're still spending that money? No. This is actually, well, it's a good thing for you because they've lost that money. So the way it's set up is negative 5 times negative 30. Now, how is this a good thing? Since the bank lost track of it, you haven't spent it. Since you technically haven't spent it, that means you still have an extra $150 that the bank says, oh, I guess you don't have it anymore. We lost it, so we're going to penalize you. So let's go and take a look at example number 7. Now, example number 7, we have a lot of numbers. Negative 5, negative 1, negative 1, and a 4. Now, technically, this 4 is a positive. From yesterday's notes, if you have an odd number of negatives, what's your answer going to be? It should be negative. If you have an even number of negatives, it should be a positive. So let's count and see. I have 1, 2, 3. 3, which is an odd number, which means I'll end up with a negative answer. So I know I'm going to end up with a negative answer. Let's go and multiply. Remember, we have to go left to right. So 5 times 1 is 5. Negative 1 times 4. 5 times 1 is a negative 5 times 4, which will give me negative 20. Oh, I brought those negatives all the way down. So the negative 20 transfers up here. Or another way, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you figure out your negative ahead of time, you don't have to worry about bringing down your negative all through here. I brought up my negative throughout the entire thing. So answer is going to be negative 20. Now, go ahead and try number 8 on your own. So, for number 8, you should have noticed, I only have one little negative. One negative is an odd number, so that means my answer should be negative. So let's just multiply. It's 2 times 3, 6, times 5 again is 30. But remember, I had that negative in front, that's why my negative's in the answer. So I have to bring it up. Negative 30 should have been your answer. Now go ahead and try to do number 9 and number 10 on your own. So, taking a look at number 9. I have 1, 2 negatives. 2 negatives is an even number, so that means my answer should be positive. Now I just have to do a lot of math. So 3 times 2 is 6. Bring down my leftover numbers. 6 times 6 is 36. Times 2, let's see, 36 times 2 is 72. So 72 is my answer. Now, oops, let me make it a little better. 72 is my answer. Now, remember, you can also just have it as a plain 72. Either answer is correct. Now let's see how you did on number 10. For number 10, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different negatives. Even number, better be a positive answer. So, let's go and do some multiplication. See if I'm right. 1 times 7, remember they're both negatives, ends up being a positive, times a negative 2 times a negative 1. Then I have 7 times a negative 2, which is a negative 14. Multiply that by negative 1. Those are both negatives, so they cancel out. End up with a positive 14. Remember, I predicted I was going to have a positive answer, so that's the correct answer as well. So just a little reminder from before. Remember, odd numbered negatives is negative, even numbered negatives is positive. It's in your notes. So now we're going to be doing this with division, though, instead. So, technically, first write down example number 1. Now let's take a look at it. Technically, my 8 is a positive. So my triangle still will work. I have a positive divided by negative. My answer is going to be a negative. So I have a negative up here. Another way of looking at this is 8 divided by 2, or 2 divided by 8, which way you need to do to remember it. So what is 8 divided by 2? 8 divided by 2 is going to give you 4. Is going to give you 4, but it has to be a negative. Why? Because my negative 2 is there. I only have one negative. One negative is an odd number, that's why it better be negative. So now, go ahead and try to do example number 2 and number 3 on your own. So example number 2, I have a negative 10 and a negative 5. So it's 2 negatives. 2 negatives is an even, there'd be a positive answer. Or, if you want to use our triangle, 2 negatives always gives you a positive. Either way you want to remember it. So, I know that my answer has to be a positive. And once again, it's 10 divided by 5. So 10 divided by 5, or setting it up like that, whatever way you need to remember. So my answer is just going to be a positive 2. Now, let's go and take a look at example number 3. Now automatically you should have noticed, I have a negative right here, only have one negative, it's an odd, I have a negative answer. So, I have a negative answer, and what's 24 divided by 3? It's going to give you 8. So now, go and finish up, do 4, 5, and 6. What is your answer going to be? So for number 6, I have a negative 18 divided by 6, and we're technically a positive, and we learned before, 1 negative, it's an odd, it should be a negative answer, or if you need to use your triangle, negative divided by positive, or it's going to give you a negative, whichever way you want to remember it. So I know I have a negative answer. What's 18 divided by 6? Everyone should have gotten 3. Now, let's go and take a look at example number 5. So once again, first thing that should pop out at you, I have 2 negatives. Those negatives are going to end up canceling out, giving me a positive answer. So plus. So what's 72 divided by 8? 72 divided by 8 is 9. And now, last but not least, number 6. Once again, first thing that should pop at you. Oh, I have 1 negative. 1 negative is an odd number, should have a negative answer. So put that negative out in front, and then what's 15 divided by 3? Remember, if you need to rewrite it as 15 divided by 3, or 3 dividing into 15, whichever way you want to do to remember it. So this should be a negative 5 as your answer. So now go and write me a 2-sentence summary. We learned about how when we're multiplying integers with negative numbers and dividing integers with negative numbers. What do you have to be careful about? How many negatives you have, and what steps you need to take to solve it.